It's now my great pleasure to introduce Aneesh Chopra, who is today's keynote speaker. Aneesh is the United States government's Chief Technology Officer, and in that role he serves as an assistant to the President and Associate Director for Technology within the Office of Science and Technology Policy. Prior to this appointment, Aneesh served as the 4th Secretary of Technology for the Commonwealth of Virginia, serving with Governor Tim Kaine there from January 2006 until April 2009. Aneesh had an earlier career in business where we had the good fortune of working together at the advisory board company. Aneesh served there for many years as managing director of the advisory board, which is a public company based in the Washington, D.C. in the business-to-business information space. Aneesh was named to Government Technology Magazine's top 25 in their Doers, Dreamers, and Drivers issue in 2008. I don't know which one of those you were, all the above. He received his BA from the Johns Hopkins University and his MPP from Harvard's Kennedy School. So we are delighted to have you here. Thank you so much. Aneesh Chopra.
I have the coolest responsibility today because I get to celebrate genuine American entrepreneurial innovation and entrepreneurship. You will see in just a few moments just some of the great innovations that have come out of these programs that we've launched. But I want to get first to the setting of the stage for why this topic is so critical to achieve the President's goals to out-educate, out-innovate, and out-build our economic competitors around the world. I want to start the conversation with a little bit of data about where we are from the economics standpoint. Now, as many of you know, our country is beginning to turn its economic engine forward. Our GDP rates of growth are moving in a positive direction. But a recent study by McKinsey, released maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, highlighted the challenge. They actually correlated our long-term economic prospects to productivity growth. And they identified key sectors of the American economy that have failed to deliver the productivity gains that we've seen so obviously from the technology sector, just to name one. And when you saw the list of the sectors that had failed to achieve productivity gains, the common theme across a number of them was the degree to which they were engaged in public policy. Government itself had not really demonstrated productivity gains, not a lot of surprise. But areas like education, healthcare, our energy sector, even our transportation system, on their data had shown relatively flat productivity performance as against these other sectors of the American economy, retailing and the like, that have seen tremendous gains. And the bold proposition that McKinsey had shared was that if we as a nation could unlock the productivity potential in these sectors of the economy, not just these regulated sectors, but in the overall mix, we would position ourselves to achieve our long-term economic prospects so that the American dream would be alive and well for the next generation. So that notion of linking our productivity agenda to these sectors of the economy is what brings my perspective to the discussion today, because so much of our productivity agenda has been powered by the introduction of information technologies to these legacy sectors. And we obviously ask ourselves, what has happened in our educational system? And to what extent has that system incorporated technologies in such a manner that would deliver those productivity gains? And as every one of you in this room has been hearing all day, you understand emphatically that we have, for whatever reason, our environment has failed to incorporate these tools that have delivered productivity. Now, why is that relevant? I just got off the plane 24 hours ago to launch the President's Open Government Dialogue with my counterpart in India. And one of the key areas of our Open Government Dialogue had been focused on whether we could collaborate in open educational resources. And in fact, we were looking at ways where they have no infrastructure to their poorest villages in India, where they're now connecting fiber and 4G broadband. Fiber and 4G broadband to 250,000 villages of a population less than 1,000 or so each. The most rural areas in India will have connectivity, and one of the first conversations that came out of our Open Government Dialogue was the degree to which innovative learning applications, many of them built on gaming dynamics, could be introduced to allow their children to understand concepts of algebra and other math subjects in ways where they lacked access to the teacher infrastructure that we take for granted in our country. So I saw firsthand, just 24 hours ago, the potential of what's happening in a global context. Now, what are we doing to churn this productivity engine in education? I would suggest you've heard today at least 3 policy levers that are interesting and new. The first of those levers you heard about this morning was the introduction of a research and development agenda in education. Is it imaginable that a sector the size of our pharmaceutical industry invests less than half a percentage point of its entire budget on research and development? Pharmaceuticals spend what, 17%? It is mind-boggling that we lack this kind of engine of innovation, the research and development agenda. So that's why the president has been so bullish. You heard about digital promise. You heard the president's remarks earlier this month calling for a new ARPA for education. You've seen work that we're doing to commercialize those research ideas into new products and services that can be tested or validated and eventually scaled through the Invest in Innovation Fund, where the president spoke about increasing our resources to that very, very important program. That's just one of the policy levers. The second is to think about enabling IT infrastructure. You've heard a lot about broadband. That's not new to the discussion. But we also start to think about the role of technology standards that would open up new classes of learning applications into our K-12 experience. Now let's just pause for a moment and think about what we're witnessing before our very eyes. 40 states have agreed to a Common Core standard for mathematics. We now have a goal. Our application developers can design new concepts to help folks understand how they can master the subjects as defined by our Common Core. What's missing is the USB drive for the American educational system that would allow us to provide substitutable peripherals, if you will, into the classroom. We do not care if it's a textbook-based introduction. An application. In fact, one of the applications we spoke about in India was the Khan Academy, based here in the United States, with gaming dynamics to help folks understand what's the learning progression across the 160-plus concepts in algebra. In fact, CK12 Foundation in California has mapped to the California standards and mapped the Khan videos to the California educational standards, and we're talking about how that can be part of our program and pilot in India. Substitutable learning modules that speak to assessments, that speak to the ability to show demonstrated mastery and can be assessed in a manner for our kids to learn the Common Core standards. We've now got an opportunity. This equivalent of the USB drive we've introduced in healthcare. We invested in a research and development program a year ago today to say, look, all the hospitals in America have all their fancy IT. It's really hard to introduce a new application because each time you introduce a new application to an existing hospital or physician's office, you got to build the custom interface. No USB drive in this example, no API for the techies in the room. Well, this Harvard research team, 1 year to the day, we invested $15 million into the program, has published the first specification for an application programming interface so that any third-party application, in this case on pharmaceutical applications, could plug into that API once, and any hospital that has adopted the framework will allow for that application to work. Part of our challenge in education is to introduce that kind of common standard or platform or USB drive so there can be a vibrant and competitive marketplace for new applications, I believe many of which will be powered with game mechanics and game design. But don't take my word for it. Let the marketplace compete. So long as we're achieving the outcomes objective to achieve mastery of the subjects as defined by the 40 states that have agreed to the Common Core, we've got a target. But this third principle that is the basis for my enjoyment this afternoon to celebrate winners, is the role our government is playing as convener. You know, we're in Washington. We think that the government's job is capital letter G. Pass bills, run programs, fund things, and boy, do we spend a lot of time engaging in a debate about these things. But we forget about the lowercase g. That is that we essentially think of ourselves as a family, an extended group of neighbors who come together for the common good. And when our president challenges us, we step up. And the president has challenged us. He's challenged us to find new and interesting ways to tap the entrepreneurial energy of the American people so we can invent our way out of our challenges in learning. And that's what we've been doing. Inspired by the president's call to arms in the fall, challenging us through his Educate to Innovate campaign, a whole range of people, many of whom are in this room, took up the cause. They didn't ask for a bill to pass Congress. They certainly didn't wait for some procurement cycle in government. They said, how do we introduce our concepts under the spirit that the president has said, let's come together and innovate in this very important area, specifically around how we learn the next generation in science, technology, engineering, and math. Now, this has been an extraordinary journey. It began with the Educate to Innovate campaign the president announced in November of 2009. It has continued along the way. Most recently, with the president's call for the Startup America initiative, that has challenged Americans once again to come together to remember what makes the American economy so successful has been the power of our entrepreneurs. Companies that are less than 5 years old have accounted for the overwhelming share of net new jobs going back over the last 3 decades. We forget this fact. And it is the entrepreneurs in Silicon Valley and everywhere in between who may be today thinking about the next social media app, who are now saying it's your time to take your best and your brightest thinking and apply it to learning. There is an emerging investor's thesis that is coming forward thanks to the work we've been talking about in the R&D domain, the work we're talking about in the standards domain, that is allowing us to say for the first time to entrepreneurs, there will be a market awaiting your application or your game. And that if you can be successful in this market introducing the product and service, we will enable you to test, validate, and scale those best ideas. In fact, Karen and I, Karen who spoke earlier today, were up in Silicon Valley just about, I guess Friday it was, meeting with a group of entrepreneurs who said, we want to step up because this has been a difficult market to sell into for years. I can't tell you how hard it is for an entrepreneur to sell an innovative learning material, learning object into our K-12 system. It's almost like it's an anathema, right? If it's not built around the textbook, maybe you can do something after school or what have you in the voluntary world. But it's certainly not going to be part of our fundamental learning experience. Well, that's now starting to change. And we're engaging in the conversation. And by the way, the president said we're going to lead by example, and he announced in January that DODEA, the military schools, will be a leader in the adoption of learning technologies to demonstrate as a proof point we can be successful. Now, we have a lot of work to do in this area. But part of what's exciting about this role of government as convener is we get to do what we're about to do, which is to celebrate the winners of this most recent manifestation of a call to arms, the National STEM Video Game Challenge, which had aimed to engage our middle school students in STEM education, focusing on 21st century literacy skills and systems, and thinking designed by the concepts that have made our video game industry so fun. There's no reason why those principles can't be used in designing our learning programming. In collaboration with the Entertainment Software Association, Microsoft, and today's sponsor, the AMD Foundation, partnering up with the Joan, Ganz, Cooney Center, and Eline Media, we are really excited to celebrate the early results of this very, very ambitious program. And by the way, how much government procurement was involved in any of this? None. Exactly. But look how much fun this is. Our first category is the Youth Prize, which was announced by President Obama and was open to all students grades 5 to 8 who could create a written game design or, frankly, even a playable game. Can you imagine, folks? 500 entries were received. I'd like to turn to a brief video highlighting the winners of this year's Youth Prize. Cue video.
Cochran. I live in Reno, Nevada, and I am in 6th grade.
Hi, my name is Mark Breton, and I live in Garland, Texas.
I'm Jasper Huguenin from Mercer Island, Washington. I'm in the 7th grade.
My name is Annie, and I go to the Nightingale Baptist School in New York City.
My name is Kendall McGowan. I'm a 7th grader in Brookline, Massachusetts.
My name is Mohammed Al-Fatirida. I'm a homeschooling educator, and my favorite subjects are math and science.
Hello, my name is Joshua, and I'm 10 years old.
I'm Bailey Sterling, a 6th grade in Saffron, New York.
My name is Jeff Wright. I live in Wheeler, Massachusetts. I'm a 5th grader.
My name is Tate Wealthy. I go to Orono Schools as a 5th grader.
My name is Ruth Wilkinson. I'm 9 years old. I live in Maynard, Texas.
Hi, my name is Shereen, and I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. When I was 3 years old, I played my first video game.
I'm a really big fan of simulation games.
Computer games, RPG, adventure, and action.
I like story games the same way I like reading. It's like the person who made the game has got this whole universe made up.
I got into game making when I was 10, and I decided, why was I playing the games? Why don't I make my own game?
The first really interesting program I wrote was a program to teach me my multiplication tables.
My goals for the game was to make it educational.
I wanted this game to be fun, but I also wanted to inform kids about the ocean while they're playing.
I created this game because I wanted as many kids as possible to learn how to program.
About sustainability. If you eat all the plants too quickly, then you won't have any left. I designed it so that the player would use their imagination and creativity to help clean up the world's environmental problems.
I had to start out kind of simple, drawing the sprites with stick figures and everything.
While I was making my game, I used comments from my teacher, classmates, and friends to make my game more fun.
Probably my favorite part building this game was testing it. I built a game that I enjoyed playing.
It teaches a lesson about teamwork. After that, I took the game and gave it to my cousins. This is my user testing.
Then I had my dad play it to make sure it was challenging enough for adults.
This is a lot harder than I thought. It gives kids power, and it can be very empowering for everyone to learn how to program. Hopefully in the near future, I will find the time to create an even more interesting story rather than just a simple adventure game.
It's going to be even better, even cool, even funnier.
When I grow up, I want to be a computer programmer.
I want to be a professional video game tester or a professional video game designer. You'll be seeing me making games in the future.
By the way, I gotta tell you, one of the best things is to watch the president interact with young people at science fairs. You get this kind of vibe when he does it. We brought them all into the White House for a science fair, and he's like, forget the handlers. I want to listen to what these kids have to say. And he blew his schedule longer. He's like, I gotta hear what they have to say. That's very impressive stuff. One parenthetical note in the concept of how this becomes part of our infrastructure. Imagine, right now the way we assess is you take that final exam, and then we track that in some software package, or more likely it's in a grade book, basically. Imagine if each interaction the student has with a learning concept in that gaming environment is spitting out data about what's working and what's not working. Imagine the amount of data that will flow in the assessment context from all of those applications. That would allow us to custom refine. There are going to be whole new industries created to mine assessment data. Again, if we had the USB drive. So I'm not trying to put a sales pitch here for standards, but you can imagine just the power of what that will do for us when you see what those kids had put together. All right. Now, it's one thing to have a bunch of kids design conceptually what's going on. Imagine if you could actually develop this stuff. We now are going to move on to the developer prizes. There were 3 categories open to all U.S. residents over the age of 18. The collegiate finalists in the developer category were, and I don't make these names up, Slime Garden, Number Power: Numbleland, and Traffic Jammin'. Traffic Jammin'. And the collegiate prize winner and recipient of a $25,000 check that'll buy a lot of material for learning is Team Number Power Numbleland. Derek Loomis, Dixie Chin, and Janine Scott. Congratulations. Well done. ready for the photograph. Congratulations indeed. Here, you want to hold this and smile? You got Eric like a fancy next to you. Cheers. Give these guys one more round. I don't think that's cashable, but that certainly looks like it might be. Yeah, I guess we'll just improvise right now. Come on down. Our second category is the grand prize in the developer category. The grand prize in the developer category had several finalists. They were SciTunes Human Body Adventure, Doc and Bacon Figure Out the World, and actually I gotta admit, one of my favorites, You Make Me Sick. Actually, it was pretty creative. I was enjoying looking at that earlier today. Okay, now, I had nothing to do with the selection of this process, but the grand prize winner and recipient of $50,000 is Team You Make Me Sick, Dan Norton and Dan White.
I left Dan Norton back doing real work.
All right.
Good luck, Dan.
This game was pretty fun. You basically make people sick on purpose and create the antibodies. Very impressive. You want to stand and look good for the crowd? All right. For our final category, not only were the competitors for this developer prize asked to create a fun and educational game related to STEM learning, but they were also challenged to create a game that could be used to reach underserved youth populations. That led to this final category, the Impact Prize. And the recipient of the Impact Prize will be taking home a $25,000 check. So of all the developers that had submitted, the winner for the Impact Prize is Team Number Power Numbleland, Derek Lomas, Dixie Chin, and Janine Sun. I'm impressed. How did it go?
This was definitely the most meaningful.
That's great. Yes. That was it for the celebrations. See, for those of you in the room who are not one of the sponsors of this prize, I hope you're inspired to think about what you or your company or your organization might do to convene around some of these opportunities. There's another prize yet to be announced, and it's probably got your name on it so that you can help inspire the next round of 5th graders, 6th graders, and the like. Thank you all for the work you've done. For the finalists, you all did a great job, a lot of fun. Please give them a round of applause. And I will ask Elizabeth, we have 3.5 minutes left. It is up to you to round us out.
Now, with no offense to anyone else, I will give one more award, and that is to Aneesh for being the best speaker of the day.